Alright, I'm going to make a quick video that explains the peer review sheet that I uploaded. So I'm going to go through each of these and show you an example of kind of what it means. Alright, so the first part says, does the title of the paper reflect the topic of the paper? So here, title that reflects your thesis should include some of the keywords that are in your thesis statement. So I don't want to give you samples because I don't want you to just steal mine, but you want to think about your keywords like rules, civilization, savagery, and include those things in your title here. All right, for the second part, right, is the thesis statement the last sentence of the first paragraph. All right, so this is a placeholder thesis, or intro, sorry, so it doesn't make any sense. I just have words here randomly. So you're going to have your introduction first. Your thesis is going to be down here. You have no choice. It has to be literally the exact last sentence in this introductory paragraph, and you want to make sure that it's in the proper format, which is in Lord of the Flies, Golding uses characterization of. This is going to be your character to demonstrate, and then you've got your theme there. All right, so that has to be the last sentence of the intro. You don't have a choice. And again, make sure Lord of the Flies is capitalized, or not capitalized, sorry. Well, yes, capitalized, but italicized, because it is the title of a novel. All right, number three, are all titles punctuated correctly? So in here, your novel titles like Lord of the Flies is always going to be italicized. If for some reason you are typing the title of one of the journal articles that you use from the back of the book, you're going to put that in quotation marks. All right, so I don't have a sample of that here. Many of you probably won't put the titles of those in there anyway, but if you do, you want to make sure you put them in quotation marks. All right, do the topic sentences, which is going to be the first sentence of each paragraph, mention the character and the theme you're addressing. So you're going to look for your keywords here: society, savagery, rules, civilization, etc. All right, so if I made comments on your topic sentence outline, those are things that you want to make sure you carry through to your topic sentences here. So if you go down to this one, it says, after a short time on the island, Roger entertains himself by throwing stones at the little inns, but he is restrained by the rules of society. So you've got your event from the novel here, all right, and then you also have your tie to your thesis. So restrained by the rules of society. So here we have absence of civilized rules. So there's a clear keyword here in this topic sentence that ties right back to our thesis. You'll also notice this has to be in one sentence. All right, a topic sentence has to be one sentence, and it has to merge both of those things. So the event from the novel that you're talking about and how that helps prove your thesis. So I'm super picky about this, so you shouldn't have a period in here. If you're merging two independent clauses, you want to use a semicolon. I can show you how to do that if you're confused. All right. Paragraph number 5. Does each paragraph have a wrap-up sentence that ties the paragraph back to the thesis? So this is like a mini conclusion. So if you go all the way down to the last sentence of your paragraph, it should tie back to your topic sentence and also back to your thesis. So if we're going to see those keywords again. So the stones that Roger throws symbolize the start to his irresponsible use of power. So this goes up to the thesis. As the rules of society, so there's our keyword, start to lose their grip on him because he is on the island. All right, so we've got wrap up for the event. We also have the symbol in here, which you don't necessarily have to do, but it's a good place to kind of tie that in. And then we have our tie to our thesis. So you're going to have your topic sentence, which ties to your thesis, and then your wrap-up, which also ties to your thesis. This is going to help ensure that your essay is really well organized and everything follows the same string that leads back to your thesis. All right. So drop quotes. All right. These are very easy to avoid, but will lose you lots of points if you don't do them. All right. So a drop quote is simply a quote that is just pasted into the middle of a paragraph. So like it's dropped in there. Sometimes you also call them like dangling quotes as well. Or orphan quotes. There's a lot of different words for them. But if you go here, if you look at this one, I'll show you two types of ways to integrate it. So actually, I'll start with this one first, the easier one. So the easiest way to avoid your drop quotes is to simply do a little signal phrase. So Golding writes, Roger says, Jack says. So you can simply just type that with a comma before your quote. All right, that's the easiest way to avoid it. It's also the least advanced way, so you want to kind of work on improving that as you write more essays. But for now, this is fine. All right, if you go down here to this quote, I did it in a little different way. All right, so you'll notice I started with my own words here, and I fused the quote in there so I didn't have to use a signal phrase. All right, this is more advanced and a little difficult to do, but it's much more effective and it helps your essay flow much more smoothly. All right, so you'll notice if you read it out loud, it makes a complete sentence. So you can't just add a whole bunch of words and then paste your quote in there so it makes no sense. So if you read it out loud to yourself, it should flow like a complete sentence like this one does. All right, 4 different sources. All right, so a lot of people had problems with this in the rough draft. So essentially, in each of your paragraphs, if we go down here too, we'll do 7 and 8 at the same time. So 1 supporting quote from the novel in each paragraph. So in each body paragraph, so not your intro or your conclusion, but your 3 body paragraphs, you're going to have a quote from the novel. So you have to have one of those. There's no option. You need primary source evidence in each one of your body paragraphs. There's no exception. Then ideally, you also want one of these back of the book quotes from the journal articles or essays. So you'll see a Golding citation and then another person's last name here as well. So if you count the different citations you have in your essay, you should find 4, because you have Golding, which is 1, you have Keating or whatever other name it is, which is 2, and then you should have 2 more different last names, which proves that you have used 4 different sources. If you do not meet the source requirement, you're going to lose a massive amount of points, so you want to make sure you do that. All right, so you have to find a way to work those in there, and if you're confused, I'm happy to help you. All right. So second to last one here, number 9. All right, so after each quote, explain how it helps prove your thesis. All right, so you never want to move on from a quote into a new idea. You always want to have your quote here. So it talks about him throwing the stones, but he leaves space. He doesn't actually hit Henry, and then you want to tie that to your thesis. So in the beginning of the novel, the rules that used to govern Roger still had an effect on him. He knew throwing stones was wrong, but he began slowly experimenting without anyone to enforce the rules. So this talks about our keyword, which is rules, but it addresses him kind of straying from those as well. So it explains the relevance of this quote to the thesis. That's the most important part of integrating a quote, and if you do that poorly, your essay isn't going to make very much sense. All right, so same thing, we go down to Keating here, talks about how the boys are too young to look ahead and really put the curbs in their own nature and implement them. Because they're immature, they cannot keep a grasp on what's right and wrong, so this explains the significance of this secondary quote to our thesis, so you want to make sure that's clearly explained. You want to do that for every single quote ever, and this is going to help you meet that 3-page requirement if you're struggling. Explain the quote very thoroughly. All right, and the last one, proper MLA formatting. All right, so there's some guidelines here. You should probably use 12-point Times New Roman, but Arial is fine, or whatever default font this is, which is Arial anyway. So watch the other video to make sure that you've met all those requirements. So if you can go through this whole list, the only thing I didn't notice or mention here, sorry, you want to make sure you also discuss your symbol in each body paragraph. So that was on the paragraph template that I showed you earlier, so you should have done that anyway, but I did not put it on this peer review because I forgot, so make sure you'll do that as well. So I'll address that in class anyway to give you a reminder, but that is also going to help you reach that 3-page requirement by really thoroughly explaining that symbol. So if you go through and you do all of these steps, you're in pretty good shape. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to get a wonderful grade, but again, like I said, writing one of these research papers is kind of formulaic, so it's got a bunch of requirements and ingredients, and if you have those ingredients in here, you are in good shape. So make sure you really go through this and read each one carefully, address it side by side like I do here, so you can dock your essay to the left and this page to the right, and really go through and make sure you can assess whether or not you've done these things. If you haven't done them, then those are the things you need to focus on fixing, and if you do all of this, then you are in good shape. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions in class. You'll have some time to work on this, but this hopefully will be helpful.